Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video is an open and blunt discussion about Ralph Bakshi and his animated films. This video may contain images and/or discussions of drug use, violence, and sexual situations. Viewing beyond this point is done at your own risk. I take no responsibility for your decision. Thank you, and please have a nice day.
Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this video are those of my own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any other person or group of people. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of any group of people, person, or fanbase or its members. This video and the presentation of material therein do not imply the expression of any opinion other than mine.
Hello and welcome to this video. Today's video is going to be something a little different. I know all of this month we've been doing movies. And we will probably continue movies till the beginning of October, and I will figure out something else. Maybe books. Maybe we'll do books in October. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Today we are going to be talking about Ralph Bakshi. I am not sure if that is the correct pronunciation of the man's name. B-A-K-S-H-I Bakshi. The godfather of animation. Probably one of the greatest overlooked film animators of our day, of the 20th century. He has... What he did for animation is the reason why we have shows like Family Guy, American Dad, Futurama, anything that is considered adult animation. The 80s movie, Heavy Metal. If it wouldn't have been for Ralph Bakshi, we wouldn't have had any of that. He pioneered adult themes and animated movies before it was cool. He was born in what is now Israel. It was, at the time, I believe it was part of Palestine. Yeah. Haifa, H-A-I-F-A, Palestine. It's now, or Palestine. Palestine is a city in Texas, in East Texas, but Palestine is born 1938. He's still alive. He's 6'3" tall. Damn, I didn't realize he was that tall. Yeah, he was born. His parents immigrated to America. He grew up in some fairly dicey neighborhoods in the Northeast Coast, Jersey, Queens, New York, that area. He grew up Philadelphia, and he grew up in some fairly dicey neighborhoods with some less than legal things going on. And this affected him. This affected his wanting, his ability to make his thought processes. It's my thought processes aren't really good. The silly putty doesn't work sometimes. These experiences growing up, a lot of positive, a lot of negative, a lot of in between. He was, like I said, he was a Jewish immigrant in America in the early 20th century. That'd be the early 1900s for you kids out there. So yeah, yeah, he experienced a whole lot of racism, saw a whole lot of racism, saw a lot of sexism, saw a lot of misogyny, a lot of misandry, a lot of homophobia, firsthand dealings with La Cosa Nostra, and yeah, this impacted him. He grew up and wanted to be an animator. He had this drive to be an animator. In fact, some of his first animation jobs, he worked for Terry Toon's studio, and he worked on shows like Mighty Mouse, Heckle and Jekyll, Deputy Dog, Spider-Man, and as he cut his chops, his big break, though, was in '67 when he did the Spider-Man TV show, which put him in a position to negotiate with Robert Crumb to do a Fritz the Cat feature. Fritz the Cat has the distinction of being the very, very first X-rated cartoon. Crumb and Bakshi had a falling out over the movie simply because of, in Crumb's opinion, Bakshi mishandled the character. And if you go a straight correlation between the Fritz the Cat's comics and this movie, he did. But what he did is he made Fritz, these are all anamorphic creatures, into basically late 60s college kid trying to get laid. Simple, easy. His attempts at getting laid sent him on a series of ventures. Good, bad. We get to see some racism against Jews, blacks, a lot of the Cuban and Puerto Ricans that were settling in that area at the time. It is a wild ass ride. It's most noted for its gratuitous sex, and there's a lot of gratuitous sex in it. However, there's a lot of drug use, mainly marijuana. I believe there's some LSD use. It's been a while since I watched the movie. And this movie kind of made him the darling, and at the same time the villain, because he did such a good job. It was a fairly popular movie in its day. He went on to do his own characters, his own movies based on the traumatic, and he had by today's standards, a very traumatic childhood. He made movies like very controversial movies like Heavy Traffic, Coonskin, Hey Good Looking, and all of these movies, he pulls zero punches. He calls out everybody for their shit. He calls out white people, he calls out black people, calls out Latinos, calls out homosexuals, calls out Italians, calls out Jews. But he also gives them credit for the good things they bring. And I'm going to be honest with you. If you are under probably about 45 years of age, Ralph Bakshi's movies will probably trigger you. He will trigger you. Because it's in your face. No punches pulled, doesn't soften anything. It's like getting hit in the head with a 50-pound anvil. Heavy Traffic is semi-autobiographical. Autobiographical. That word just does not sound right coming out of my mouth right now. And it's about an Italian. You have an Italian Jewish kid growing up, very adulterous father, minor low-level mafia figure, Jewish mother, and he plays that stereotypical Jewish mother, for good, for bad. And he plays the playing of the father, the Italian father stereotypes. I mean, he hits peak stereotype on these guys, on all of the characters. He's a white Jewish kid, Jewish Italian kid, dating a black woman in the 1950s. And it's crazy. It is a crazy ass movie. I could probably do an hour and a half on each of his movies if I so desired, but I won't, because YouTube would probably ban me for like eons. Well, probably not. The Heavy Traffic, Coonskin is about 3 black men traveling through America in the late 1950s, early 1960s, through the American South, up into New York, into Harlem and all that. And it deals with the racism they face. It deals with the internal racism within black culture. It deals with drug use. It deals with dirty white cops. It deals with dirty preachers. It deals with, you name it, it deals with it. And it's in your face. This movie, Coonskin and Heavy Traffic, are a mixture of animation and live action. I mean, he was doing this way before Roger Rabbit became popular. You know, Bakshi could be credited for the reason why we have Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But it was, like I said, it was this mixture of live action. These two movies are very, very powerful movies. And if you go into it understanding that you're going to be hit in the head, especially in Coonskin, because Coonskin, he goes up against the mob. He points out all the stereotypical things that the mob does. I mean, takes the Godfather and puts it on its ear. Black Southern churches. How being naive to something could get you killed. Racist white Southern cops. Like I said, it just... the prevalent sexism, the attitudes toward women, the attitudes of white men towards black women. If you go in understanding that he's holding a mirror up and making us look at ourselves. He's making us look at ourselves. And it's not pretty. It is not a pretty picture. Those two movies impacted I saw those movies at a relatively young age. I saw a lot of fucked up stuff when I was probably way too young for it. But yeah, these movies, they're worth it. I think they're a movie. There's no way on God's green earth that these movies would be made today. But they are worth looking at. They are worth watching, because, like I said, especially those two movies, of all the movies she's made, those two movies make you look at yourself in a mirror. All the blemishes, the scars, the imperfections, they're there. And yeah, it's like a good hard kick in the crotch. But if you go into it understanding what you're getting ready to get into, and you're willing to learn from it, to better yourself with it, it is those two, Heavy Traffic and Coonskin, I highly, highly recommend. Going back to Fritz the Cat for a moment, we deal with, like I said, it's a college student. It's your college kid, probably upper middle class, trying to get laid. Him and his buddies are just trying to get laid, trying to smoke a little dope, have a little sex, and rack on. Like I said, there are lots and lots of things in this movie. Like I said, and because of the so focused quest to get laid, it takes him. He deals with neo-Nazis, deals with anarchists, deals with people trying to overthrow the government. Brandon Tinold over on his channel, which is a really good channel. Hopefully I'll remember to put a link to his channel in the bottom below. He described Fritz the Cat as the anime Wicked City fucking a Looney Tune. And he's not wrong. Wicked City is a Japanese, very mature, very adult, demon take over the world type cartoon series. It's a series. It's a show. But yeah, and Wicked City has some very telling themes to it. A lot of them are, because it's Japanese, deal with Japanese culture and are kind of alien to us, so we just look at it as part of the show. But now these are those three movies are what put him on the radar, put him on the map. He also had a knack of being able to spend a penny on a movie and make $1 off it. He was the king of low budget, high return movies. His movie Wizards is a fine example of it. Wizards was being made at the time at pretty much hand in hand while this Lucas fellow, George Lucas, I think the guy's name, was making some kind of Star Wars movie or something. And originally Wizards was going to be War Wizards. But because this Lucas guy and Bakshi hit it off real well, they got talking and hanging out together, and Lucas is like, "Hey man, do you mind changing? Somebody might confuse your cartoon about wizards and elves and orcs and stuff like that with my movie about my live action movie about the Viet Cong in space. And he was sure, but it's going to cost you. That Hamill guy, I need a voice actor. Can he do acting? So, in exchange for changing it from War Wizards to just Wizards, there's a very minor character who has maybe 2-3 minutes screen time that's voiced by Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. And that's how that went down. And because Lucas was needing more money to do his little, I wonder whatever happened to that movie. His little movie, they kept cutting Baksh's budget for Wizards. So there's an ass ton of narration, a lot of still frame, kind of reminiscent of Belladonna of Sadness, and except with more animation. And there's a whole lot of just still frame with animation within it that would make some really good 70s heavy metal album covers. If you're old enough to remember 1970s, 1980s heavy metal, rock and roll album covers. Well, if you know what an album is, you know what an album cover is. The artwork that was done, these would make great. What makes Wizards stand out is Wizards was a post-apocalyptic movie, where a lot of fantasy movies were Middle Ages set type thing. Bakshi in the opening monologue blows up the earth. Pulls a Douglas Adams on us there. Well, he doesn't really blow it up. He just annihilates everybody with nuclear war. And you have the rebuilding of society, this, that. You have elves and ogres and monsters and demons and fairies and all this good stuff. And it's a PG movie. It was made when parentals or your parents actually took responsibility for raising their kids. So yeah, the parental guidance thing it's a PG movie. I mean, it's got the same rating as Frozen or Rapunzel or Lion King. Think about that for a moment, and if you watch this movie, which I recommend just about anything Bakshi put his hands on. He also he was asked to do Lord of the Rings. Bakshi is one of those people that religiously reads The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, and jumped at the idea. The thing is he found making it that he couldn't do that. He couldn't take somebody else's work and make a movie out of it. As much as he loved the books, as much money as this made in the box office, he himself believes this to be one of his worst movies he ever made. I prefer it over the Peter Jackson movies, but that's a whole different soapbox, kids. Now, the movie that I don't think any Ralph Bakshi fan admits is a Ralph Bakshi movie is Cool World with Brad Pitt. And yeah, that movie had the potential to go really well, but the studio, because they gave so much money, felt it necessary that they stick their hands in there and they screwed this movie up. Watch it at your own risk. I don't recommend it. It's probably the only Ralph Bakshi movie that I would not recommend watching. Another thing that I find interesting in this era of body positivity, all of Bakshi's strong protagonist females are big girls. They're all hippie, got a little bit of a tummy on them, got some massive breasts. You can tell Bakshi was a breast man. But he was doing big girls as giving them agency, giving them thought, giving them the ability to do things in the 60s and 70s, people. He slid that in there. Hey, good looking, all of them, even all the way back to Fritz the Cat. He was a lot of his main female characters, if not all of them, not counting Cool World, are hippie. They're big girls. He likes big butts, and he cannot lie. The proof is in his movies. And he was doing body positivity long before it was popular. He was doing women having control of their own sexuality, their own sex drive, they're being sexually independent. Back, like I said, back before it was cool, back before it was the correct thing to do. He was doing it when it was incorrect, so that kind of just made it that much more. Makes those movies that much better. And I'd say check them out. Now, before we wrap this up, what I'm going to do is point out the fact there's a lot of people, especially my age group, early to mid 50s, that think Bakshi did heavy metal. He didn't. He had nothing to do with heavy metal. He's probably the reason why heavy metal got made. His efforts in the before heavy metal is why it got made, more than likely. But as far as working on it and stuff, no, he didn't. He also did a web in the first part of this century, of the 200s or 2000s. He did, let me see, I can't remember the name of it, and I've searched a couple episodes, a web series that Bakshi did. Let me see if I can find it here in my liner notes. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of notes on Bakshi. Okay, American Pop. Oh yeah, he did the Mighty Mouse from 87 to 89. Short-lived. He did the revival of Mighty Mouse. I forgot about that. It was canceled because because parents groups getting upset because of the implications that Mighty Mouse may have been doing cocaine, but he's also an accomplished painter. See, he did a web series called Little Gals and Little Guys, and I think he did something called The Last Days of, I want to say Last Days of, not Rhode Island, Last Days of Coney Island. That's what it was. It took me a while to find it, but yeah, it's here in my notes. Last Days of Coney Island. It's free on YouTube, or at least that's what my source says. My source is Wikipedia, so it's 13 episodes, and it's very Bakshi. So we're going to wrap this up because we're pushing 30 minutes. And I should have really broke this down into two 15-minute segments. But, you know, it is what it is. So, until next time, people, remember, this woke mentality isn't so woke if you actually pay attention to what went on in history, and it's always been out there and it's always been around. And Bakshi is one of those people that can make you a better human if you let him. So with all that being said, be a good human, be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?